Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to start learning about functions with parameters. So what do I mean? Well, so far in this chapter of the course, we've seen how we can create a function. We now know together that we can use the keyword function, have some sort of function name, so say hello or say hi, and then inside of curly braces, we can write our code inside of the code block where we say hello you to the user, okay? Semicolon to end the statement. So we've seen this before. So we have our function keyword, we have say hello, our function name, we have our parentheses, we have our opening curly brace and our closing curly brace, then we have our code here, okay? So hopefully by now you know if I save and refresh and look at the browser, nothing is going to happen. And that is because while we have defined or created our function, we haven't called or invoked it. So we know that to call or invoke the function, all we need to do is just write out the name of the function followed by parentheses. So if I just type it out, semicolon to end statement, we see that we then call our function. And like I've said previously, you can call a function multiple times. So therefore, I've written the function once, but I call upon it 3 different times. And if I refresh, we get hello you 3 times. Okay, that's awesome. Now, here's the problem. In the real world, you're going to want to pass real life data into a function. So for example, maybe you want to pass in a number and double it. Maybe you want to pass in an age and do some sort of calculation with that age, or maybe you want to pass in someone's name. Maybe you want to pass in 2 numbers and add them together. So far, we have not been able to do that based on the functions we have written because they were functions that didn't take in any data. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a function. We're going to start learning about parameters and arguments in JavaScript, and we're going to pass in our first argument to a function. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function whereby we can pass in someone's name and the function will just say hello name. So how do we do that? Well, what we do is we use the keyword function like we saw previously. Then we have a function name, so say hello. But this time, inside of the parentheses, instead of leaving the parentheses empty, we're going to type out a parameter. So that is our parameter. And now, when the function is called or invoked, we can actually pass in a name, such as a string, like Batman or Jessica or John, to our say hello function. So now what we can do is, in our function, we can say console.log. Let's use the backtick beside the number 1 on the keyboard, and we'll say hello, and then whatever name, the value that was passed in. So we know that with the backticks, if we use the $sign and then curly braces, we can just log out name. Okay. Alternatively, you could do console.log a string and then just have hello, comma, and then the name. So now, what we've done is we've created a function and it has a parameter. Okay, so this name here is a parameter. So note that the parameter here is called name. So therefore, inside of the function, I have to refer to whatever I've called it. So name is called a name there as well, because that's what I've decided to call the parameter. So basically, the parameter is just a placeholder. Okay, what do you want to call the data that's being passed in? Okay, so now what I do is, to call or invoke the function, I still write out the name of the function, okay? But instead of having empty parentheses, we don't do that, we pass in data. So I could pass in, for example, Batman. Now what I've done is, I'm calling and invoking the function, okay? The function that's defined up here, and I'm passing the value of Batman into the function. So now, when I save and refresh, we should see hello, Batman. Okay? Whoops, not dealt. Apologies about that. I'll just minimize. So now, if I refresh, we get hello, Batman. Okay? So I know this is a bit confusing when you first see it, but the key point away is this. Just for now, be aware of the fact that you are able to pass real-world data into functions, such as strings, numbers, whatever the case may be. it's pretty much the same idea of how we've seen functions so far. You have the function keyword, you have some sort of function name. The only difference is this time we have defined a parameter. So we just call it name, and then inside of our code, we're just saying console.log hello name, whatever's passed in. Now, just so you're aware, this name here has been defined as a parameter. A function parameter is basically the name that is listed in the function that we've created, or the function definition. So name is a parameter, but when we pass data into the function, we pass data in as an argument. So Batman is the data being passed into the function, so Batman is the argument being passed in, but name here is the parameter, okay? So you might hear the terms parameter and argument used interchangeably by people. I'm going to basically do that for this course, but the key difference is this. The argument is a reference to the data that's been passed in this case Batman, and the parameter is basically what the function is expecting to receive. So it's passed in as an argument, it's received as an argument, but this name here is the parameter that's been defined, okay? It's basically a placeholder for how are we going to refer to the data. So I obviously can't call it, you know, Batman here, because maybe I want to pass in Jessica, right? And just so you know, you can pass in different names to this function. You don't just have to pass in Batman. So we could pass in Jessica. So now what I've done here is I've passed in Batman as an argument to the function, and here what I've done is I've passed in Jessica to the function. And remember, Batman and Jessica are both arguments being passed into the function. They are received by the function as an argument, but name is just a parameter. It is a reference to the data that's being passed in, so we can do something with it. If that was a bit confusing, don't worry about it. We're going to see functions now with parameters and arguments over the next few tutorials to get a bit more practice. So I'll see you in the next one.